Hello, everyone. We would like to welcome Dr. Renee Baker. Dr. Baker, could you please introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you both for having me on your podcast today. My name is Dr. Renee Baker. And I don't know, I like to start off with who I represent, and I represent my family. So the first thing is I am a wife, I am a mother of three adult daughters. So my husband Leslie and I are empty nesters, which is so great, and which is a good time for us. And I have recently made the shift, and I say recently, it's been about a year and a half that I spent nearly 3 decades in corporate America working at different financial firms. My entire career had been in the financial services industry. And in 2023, I made the courageous and very ambitious leap to start my own company. And I am now the CEO and founder of the RBI Group and the creator of the Unleash Life. Which is a podcast and a movement that I started. My experience spans multiple decades. I had leadership roles, but why I left is the reason that it becomes this discussion about Unleash. I left to pursue my passion for empowering others. I focus on financial education, coaching, and creating communities that really inspire and help people grow professionally and personally. And I do that through different mediums, whether it is through the work that we do at the RBI Group, working with financial advisors, and then my other work. I have a book coming out. There's a podcast, different speaking engagements. And my mission really on these days and with everything that I am is to help people live unapologetically and to break free from any barriers that are holding them back. And I live 100% by this core belief that the best is yet to come. And I will say that and continue to say that because I am also very, very optimistic.
Oh, I'm almost like I need you to say that again. The best is yet to come. So I'm like, we ain't gonna have no tears up on here, but that just really touched me. It's like, so regardless of where we might be today, we have to trust and believe that the best is yet to come.
Yes, and I say still.
Right.
Still. Add the still on there.
Right.
Okay.
The best
Right.
is yet to come. And so what I want to know from you, Renee, which like I told you earlier, I would love to give you the honor is due. But audience, she has given us permission to call her Renee.
Yeah.
But this is Dr. Renee Baker. Okay. So Renee, when you were in corporate America, what was your role? Were you a financial advisor? What did you do?
So when I was in corporate America, I held different leadership roles. So my last role, and I'm licensed, and I think that's important to know. I do hold several securities licenses, including the Series 7 license, which is what most financial advisors do. But my career has spanned, I've done everything from being on the trading desk to having roles with working with product, mostly in the institutional space. So that's how I like to say institutional is like where the big money resides. And then ultimately, I had the honor of just really enjoying working with financial advisors. So I still work with them. And the later part of my career, where in corporate was working with financial advisors and helping to recruit and retain financial advisors, especially diverse financial advisors. I love financial services. I love this industry. And while I wasn't a financial advisor, working very closely with them and supporting them and helping them grow their businesses, connecting with clients and helping them make an impact in their community is what I do, is what I still do. I feel like I was called to do that for advisors and for others. And working in wealth management really helped shape my understanding of marketing strategies for financial products and services. So I like to say I'm at the intersection of marketing and finance because while I majored in finance undergrad, I spent all of my career in finance. I'm licensed as finance. The marketing piece, which was something that I didn't expect, is really what helps me help people understand really important concepts and distill that information into a way that is consumable for individuals because we have to meet people where they're at. And I think the marketing and the financial piece, which sometimes seems very disconnected, I'm using both sides of my brain, right? Which is good. I'm using all of them, I'm using all of me. But it is an opportunity that's led me to, one, be very aligned with how I can help to support people, whether it is in the financial education piece, which I'm very passionate about, or helping others and creating an impact. But it's my ability to be able to distill this information around products, which I believe separates me and differentiates me in the work that I choose to
Okay, all right. You want to pop one on?
I do. Because you got a lot of information. So, but the first thing I want to know is what really like inspired you to like transition from a successful corporate career to becoming an entrepreneur. I mean, because that's a big transition. So what?
That is a big transition, and there's a bit of a story to it. So we're going to go down, but we're going to bring it back up. So the thing is, when I made the decision to leave corporate America, one thing I always say is sometimes you get called to do things, and we don't always realize on how we're being positioned for situations. But I spent all these years climbing the corporate ladder, holding different leadership roles. I went to New York, Cayman Islands, London, here in Florida. But over time, I realized one thing: despite the titles and the accomplishment, I had to decide if I was truly living in my true purpose. And that turning point came for me after having some conversations. So, for some context, I lost some loved ones, and my grandmother was one of them. And I would send my grandmother flowers every month. And we were having a conversation about when I was going to step into my power and my purpose. And one of the things that she would say to me is that, listen, life is short and it's precious, and you don't get more time. You can get another title, but you don't get more time. And said to me in that last conversation that we had, when are you going to do the thing? And I said, what are you afraid of? And I was telling her that I was, I had some trepidation. I was afraid of so many different things. And you don't get more time is what she said. So sadly, that night after that conversation, she passed away and knowing that was the last conversation, you don't get more time. And it was really her telling me, right? She had a long life. She's in her 90s. She had a long, beautiful life. We were very close. So that stuck with me. So we have the free roll. And a week or so later, I'm checking in with my mentor, who was based in London. And we had a similar conversation. And it was, hey, he's right. You don't get more time. You can get another title, and you have so much to bring. What are you afraid of? Just go for it. Just do it. And sadly, he passed away in his life.
Wow.
I don't know about you, but do you think I was going to have that conversation a third time? No. So this happened March of 2023. So I stepped away. I like to say I stepped away from a successful career, not because I wasn't grateful. And it's really hard for people to wrap their heads around when purpose calls, right? It's really hard for people to understand faith and that my steps have been ordered. And while this was a very sad purpose situation, I can take that pain and turn it into purpose. And I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for that corporate structure. And I appreciate those years that I spent. But when I went back into the office, so this is in March of 2023, the end of March. When I went back, I resigned in April. And I have realized that, I call the unleashed life because I had to break down those barriers of the things that were holding me back. A lot of that was based in fear. It wasn't based in reality. And for some reason, whatever that pivot was, whatever that reason was that I had those last conversations, I feel like who was I not to be obedient to it? Who was to not realize that I needed to take this leap? And I was in a position to be able to do it because all these steps had been ordered way before these conversations to put me in a place, multiple streams of income, having different ways that I was already receiving income and the support of my husband. So me understanding that I had to break free from those barriers, redefine success. I feel that I didn't walk away. I feel that I was called. And it's been the most rewarding leap of faith I've ever taken. And honestly, when I say that the best is yet to come, is because every single day I wake up knowing that I'm just getting started. It is not easy, but we didn't choose easy. I didn't choose easy. I just chose hard. And this was the hard that I've chosen. And I feel like this is the hard that I've been called to do. And listen, it just becomes one of those situations that I'm trusting. I live by faith, not by sight. And everything has been working out for my good, even when I didn't understand it.
I'm like, don't stop. And so Renee, like, listen to what you say. Like, when I hear the word unleashed, and like you were in corporate America for so long, we know you were making big money because you had a big job. So you had to walk away from it. Yes, you was making big money, but you had to walk away and leave that. Can you talk to the audience like about your courage? Because you said you had multiple streams of income. And honestly, if someone is called, if they don't prepare themselves, they're going to miss their calling. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Listen, that's a big part of it, right? Because I mean, I was in a situation where I was making more money than probably people would probably realize. And that had been happening for many years. And I mean, I'm in finance, so I didn't think that it was as much money as it probably was. I know that
Mhm.
now. Let's just like clock it, wake up. But the reality is, preparation is key, right? So I would say I had to be prepared, right? I had multiple streams of income in our industry. It was outside business activity. So I would say all OBA all day, but it definitely
Mhm.
takes a certain amount of courage to be able to walk away from your career. And because I'm
Mhm.
faith-based, I trust that, what is the verse? For God has not given us the spirit of
With
fear,
the fear, but
but of power and love and of a
Mhm.
sound
oh
mind.
my,
Mhm.
Um,
yes.
so that scripture has carried me through all these moments of doubt and then transition. So if you think about it, right? If I'm in this position where I feel called, it was bigger than me. And the
Mhm.
truth is, leaving a steady paycheck, even a big one, is never easy. But I realized that if I let the fear dictate my decision, I'll never step into the purpose that God has for me.
Mm,
Courage isn't really about being afraid. It's really about trusting that even with fear, even not being able to see the whole path, it revealed to me
Mhm.
that I was going to take this next step. So I knew that I needed to be wise. I've always known that I've needed to be wise. And all of those things, that there are so many things that have happened throughout my career that have positioned
Mhm.
for this moment. So that's another thing I think is so important for people to be prepared. Be prepared because you don't know what's coming, but you trust that the best is yet to come, but you don't know what's coming.
Right.
So I had to be wise. I didn't just wake up one day, and it sounds like it, right? I didn't just wake up one day and quit. I prepared. I built multiple streams of income. I understood the power of financial independence as a form of freedom. That actually helped me how I showed up in the workplace, because underestimated is my game. Like, people underestimate all day, every day. But one of the lessons I share is here: we don't wait for the perfect time because it's never going to come. But we always stay prepared. We get ready so we don't have to, we stay ready so we don't have to get ready. Is that what they say?
That's right.
that's what they say.
Right. Stay ready.
When we talk about it, right, whether it's saving, investing, or creating side hustle, we have to give ourselves options. And I started to have options in my mind because I watched people get fired. I watched the fear of how people were living in their lifestyle that kept them attached to those handcuffs, right? Which had to be unleashed from. I watch how people they were spending money. So if you got the big house, the big car, all the fancy things, and your kids are all doing all all the private schools, and you're spending money left and right, that's not how I move. I moved a little bit differently. So listen, I want people to know this. God doesn't call those that are not equipped. He equips the called. And I've been equipped, and I had to take that first step. I had to do that. And sometimes when you're stepping out, it doesn't mean that you're saying no to good so you can say yes to great. It just means that I had to leave corporate. It was my time in this moment, and I had to trust God, and I had to build something that I only not only just reflect what I wanted to be, but it also something to empower others so that they can unleash their potential, because I'm nothing special. I just was prepared. I was obedient. And I feel like if you are a person and you're listening and you feel called to something greater, don't ignore it. Pray on it, prepare for it, and then step into it, because I'm always going to say that the best is yet to come. But we also have to trust that we only get this one shot. Live it big, live it bold, live it unleashed, and whatever that is to you, live that.
Mm. And I like what you said about obedience, because the word of God said obedience is better than sacrifice, right?
Right.
So if you obey, that's when your blessings come. You see things, you get received things that you may have not received if you just obey. So I like that.
Listen, and that's hard for people to wrap their heads around. And I didn't know that, like, we were going to go this direction. But think about it. It was is a time and a purpose, and our ability to be able to talk through this and share this with others is part of this conversation and our response to the obedience.
Mm.
Yes. So be obedient so that God can bless you in all of your endeavors. And so, like you mentioned, like some side hustles. So just say we have someone listening and they want to unleash, but they don't really like know where to start. Can you give them some ideas about side hustles or other things that they can do to have multiple streams of income?
I love this question because I love side hustles, and I think that I just love a side hustle. I just love having something else, multiple streams, right? And
Mhm.
it just becomes one of these situations of what a time. First, I like to say, what a time to be alive, right? We have so much access to information. We have so much access to AI. There's so many tools out here that we can leverage, right? So the first thing is what are you passionate about? What's your thing? And for some of us, things come naturally. I'm a nerd, so my brain is the first thing I always do to
Mhm.
how can I sell this knowledge, right? But are you good at creating? What are you good at? Sometimes it's even I had an e-commerce side hustle. One of them. Some people I know do really well starting different social media channels like YouTube, which monetize. Some people work at virtual assistants. But the first thing is to really identify, excuse me, what you're good at and start there. Passion is what you do when things get hard. So if you're passionate about this thing, and let's say you're working a 9 to 5, and I am 100% supportive. I think, people think entrepreneurship, just jump into it, but there's levels to this, and it's not for everybody to do. But think about what
Mhm.
you're passionate about, because when you're working your side hustle after you've been working all day, you better love it. You better love it.
Ooh,
So,
love it.
tap into that, because if you don't love it, when things get hard, you'll be really ready to stop. Another
Right.
thing is, leverage with what you do. Since I was working in finance, and I, had been working in finance, one of the things that I really like to do was financial education, financial coaching, and creating content around financial education. So what is you already doing that you can leverage? And I don't think people always think about that. Like if you're doing something that you can bring to a side hustle, do that. I was already working in finance. I already knew all the stuff. Let me see what I can do to help to support other people. The other thing that I would say is we are in a digital economy, right? Like we're consuming information.
Mhm.
Etsy shop. I mean, I had a e-commerce business for a long time, and that was an easy side hustle. Creating platforms and doing work around different online courses. Those are things. And let's not forget the passive part of it. Let's not forget the thing that I'm most excited about, whether it's real estate investing, looking at dividend stocks, all of these different types of things that come from investing. But what I'll say is the key to any of this, all of it, is to start. You don't have to have it always figured out. And I used to be in my head about perfection, but now I look at perfection more as progress before perfection. You don't have to figure it out. Experiment, learn as you go, build confidence, and it takes one step at a time, one foot in the other. And sometimes it's not just about making money, right? You'll make the money, and I'm a big proponent, I'm a capitalist, so make your money. But it's also about creating a foundation that's going to have you step into your calling. And you know what? How you show up with audacity and boldness when you step into your purpose, right?
Mm.
Mm,
That's another thing when you put the effort. And for those of us that are believers, if you trust God with the outcome, you're going to get those opportunities, as you said, that you never imagined. And listen, commit your works to the Lord and your plan will be established. Just keep going, but you
mm,
must start.
Okay.
mm,
I'll give you a turn because if not, I'm be done took up all her time.
Look at that was powerful right there. But I do have a question.
Okay.
You see reference to, and you brought it out, businesses and finances, right?
Mhm.
And I know when you start your business, there's always some risk involved, especially financial risk. Could you talk a little bit about that when you started your businesses? What type of financial risk did you encounter when you started your businesses?
So risk is a one thing that I think that that's the thing too that holds people back, but no risk, no reward, right? Like you have to just understand what your level of risk is, and what you can
Mhm.
absorb. Because honestly, there's gonna be some risk. And I knew that when I was working, I was fine. I mean, trust me, I was good, right? So there was nothing I wasn't worried about it with the side hustle. But
Mhm.
step away from the comfort and security of a consistent paycheck and a nice sizable bonus, that
Mhm.
that just took another level of risk. So the biggest risk for me really first was managing that transition. Like, how did I make sure that I didn't drain all of our savings and I didn't put unnecessary pressure on myself? I definitely gave myself a window where I knew that I wouldn't get paid. And we had
Mhm.
prepared for that for years, not knowing that this was going to be the outcome, but just being prepared. And I had to scale back on certain expenses. We ramped up pretty quickly, so I needed to make sure that I was also pulling in from those other diversified income streams. I never stopped those. I sold one of those, but I never stopped it because I didn't want to be stressing about how ends were going to be met. And I also think that when you're starting out, right, and you're taking a shift where I went from corporate, very different mindset than entrepreneurial, some of that risk is also not unleashing that old way of thinking. So the risk of trying to be like you were to create something that you've never done before, I don't think people give that enough time. So I needed to invest in myself. I needed to invest in my vision. I had to take the risk of thinking differently. And sure, was it scary? Absolutely. But understanding that the best opportunity for me comes with some level of risk. We didn't choose easy, right? So I knew that there was going to be a certain level of risk, but the question that I couldn't avoid, the one thing that I couldn't avoid is what was I willing to absorb to make my dreams come true? And that is for different people, it means different things. But I'd say don't underestimate the importance of having a plan and have a plan. I spent a lot of time focused on process and making sure I had a plan, but I knew what I was going for, at least having different revenue streams. But you know what? That didn't have to stop me. I think some people think risk and they think it doesn't have to be calculated. I think it can be calculated. You need to be intentional. You can be prepared. And even if you step out on faith, you still need to be prepared. Because what faith without works is dead. So we need to make sure. So I just think that the biggest thing is to know that there's going to be some level of risk. Try not to use your own money if possible, and then give yourself a time limit. I definitely put a time limit and a number. I'm not going to fall off the cliff to make my vision become a reality. If I need to pivot, I need to pivot, and I'm not afraid to fail as long as I get back up. But the journey is still uncertain sometimes, but you need to stay focused, and you need to stay disciplined, because I truly believe that the reward that you want is on the other side of risk. Just like fear, everything you want is on the other side of fear.
Okay, and that was so powerful. Like, but doing earlier in our conversation, you mentioned something that kind of like grabbed me, that I think is affecting many Americans today. And I mean, it don't matter what color you are, but you mentioned something that affects everyone. And you mentioned like having the big house and having the big car. And one of your missions are you strive to educate people financially. Can
Right.
you talk a little bit to people about how important it is not to go get the big house and the big car to impress people, and you are strapped living paycheck to paycheck? You have to talk.
Listen, okay, let me see how I can say this. We have to be, I'm the reason I'm passionate about financial education is true, like you said, it does impact everyone, right? We all have to learn how to be diligent. And people that you see people with make millions of money, millions of dollars, have a lot of money, go bankrupt, right? And you see people who don't have as much be successful. So for as long as time has been there, society has pushed this narrative that your success is tied to your house, your car, your stuff. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying the fruits of your labor. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but we have to, but when we start chasing things at the expense of financial security, we're really setting us up for stress, not success. So one of the first thing that I learned early on, and I had a job as a bank teller, right? Most people don't realize that. But one of the things I would see is that watch how people spend, watch how they show up. And listen, I love to look good, I do, but you got to know that I'm very thoughtful about it. But the people who showed up at the bank with the big bank accounts and the big deposits, they were driving old paid for cars. They didn't always wear their wealth, right? I didn't always see it. And we have to shift the narrative that just because you see somebody that looks successful doesn't mean they are. And I'm also not saying that just because they look good, that doesn't mean they're successful. But we have to understand that living below our means and investing in assets that grow over time and being disciplined for the savings unexpected is setting us up for success for tomorrow. And I'm also not a big person of lack or scarcity. So I want everybody to understand the difference also between needs and wants. And I ask myself, like the holidays are coming up, I really need to do a video on Black Friday. Like, do you need this? Are you buying this because it adds real value to your life or because it looks good for other people? And when we focus on what truly matters, right? Because wealth is health to me. Wealth is my ability to show up, to be present, to show up for my family, to do the things that I want. Your truly matters, your families, your health, your purpose. Are you living that? And you start seeing that those flashy things, they they are not really the things that define you, right? Like keeping up with the Joneses.
Mhm.
So I just tell everybody, reflect on your financial habits. Are you making decisions that's helping you to your goals? Do you even know your goals? Because I don't know about you, but whenever I have a goal, that's always in the back of my mind of, hey, is this helping me or hurting me? But
Mhm.
let me say, are you stuck in the cycle of appearances? And again, I like to look good, but understand that I know and I live that true financial freedom comes when we break those chains and you pay off debt or you create an emergency fund or you have multiple streams of income. That is how you really set yourself up so you can be intentional about where you are and what you have and educate yourself on the choices that you're making so you can leave a legacy that reflects your values and you can leave a legacy that also has some wealth that you can pass down to the next generation.
Mm.
I'm like, I don't want you to
Mm.
quit talking. Okay, you got another one. The last one we're gonna pop.
This the last one? Okay,
Yes.
okay. Just as and I know you and we do too believe in financial education, right?
Yes.
And I think that's very important because a lot of times, society really don't. I don't know when you go to school, you really don't pick up financial education. You most of the time pick it up after the fact. So, how did you go about providing that financial education to like some of the people that you come across and that you meet?
Financial education, and it's so interesting that you say that. I was having a conversation actually today. I recently spoke to a group of educators around the financial education for the future, right? And here's the thing: we don't talk about money. So how can we
Mhm.
talk about financial education? We don't focus.
Mhm.
We don't talk about money like it's some taboo topic. And in this world today, we're here talking about all the things that we didn't used to talk about. Talking about politics, talking about religion, but when are we actually having a conversation about money? So I'm really passionate about this topic because I didn't talk about money when I was growing up, but I made sure
Right.
we talked about it. We would have Finance Friday. And I just think that the framing of financial literacy or financial education, like, it confuses people. But let's not talk
Mhm.
about it like that. Let's just say, you know what? When you have financial education, you are being empowered to make better choices and live the life that you want and be unleashed in that way and not have to worry about making choices and shortcutting your life because you didn't have the education. And I think the most important thing is there's three things that I think are important. The first thing is when it comes to financial education, how can we meet people where they're at? And that's where I was saying earlier, bringing this level of education and meeting people where they're at. Sure, I had this amazing career on Wall Street. I majored in finance. I know a lot when it comes to money, but how
Mhm.
does it help people if I'm talking to a classroom of students or professionals or individuals that are starting in their financial journey? If they don't understand it, they're not going to listen. They're going to disconnect. The other part,
Mhm.
how can we make it relatable? So I'm going to meet you where you're at, but I'm also going to talk about things that are in the language that you understand. So
Mhm.
instead of saying budget, because people think lack, they think if I'm talking about budget, I'm like, let's figure out how you can do more of the things that you love. Let's figure out how to make you happy and do more of that. And I think keeping it actionable. We live in a society that we want to be actionable of everything else. Let's understand that being actionable and education is important. So how do you take the financial piece, the information that you learn, and turn it into action? And it has to start with simple things. It's hard for people to do too much at once. So I'll say automate your savings, build a plan to pay off debt, get yourself a financial advisor, do all these small wins because small wins builds confidence and it builds momentum. But I think we need to disrupt this narrative that we can't talk about money or that we shouldn't talk about money. We need to share our experiences because this financial education to me is so much more than dollars and cents. This is about
Mm.
giving people tools. This is how building them confidence and letting them control their future. Because when you know better, you can do better. And
Right.
helps build multiple generations that changes our communities, that changes our conversations, and aligns us on the shared mission because we're on the shared mission to live a good life. I don't care what side you're on. No, who do you know that ways like, I don't want to live a good life? Even sad. They're like, we want to live a good life. So we can have that mission to empower others through financial education and know that we're all in this together. That I
Mhm.
think will disrupt this conversation. Start talking about money with your family. Start talking about money with your friends. This is not a taboo topic because if you can talk about some of this other stuff that is not helping us be more united, why you can't talk about the bottom line?
That's so good. And Dr. Baker, I just have one burning question. Like, because you're talking about like financial education, right? And we
Right.
might have someone that wants to reach out and maybe start a business. Okay, you've done it. But if you could go back, like what would you have done differently?
The reality is I would have done it sooner. That is the truth. If I can't take time back. Hindsight is 2020. But if I can go back and do it differently and I don't regret anything, I would have definitely started sooner. Because that time, those years that I spent in corporate building somebody else's dreams, I could have been working on my own. And that's where I wish I would have invested in myself sooner. I wish I would have known sooner. Because sometimes, and this is for folks listening, sometimes we wait for perfect timing, but there was no perfect time. And I learned that because when you start, and sometimes you start when before you're ready, that changes everything. Because if I had more time, then I could build it out. I'm older, so I'm sitting here focused on, and I can leverage that, right? That's the benefit. I can leverage it. But honestly, I would have started sooner. I had built the network, I had saved the money, and I would have just done it. But if someone is out there and they're younger and they're saying, you know what, I have the time, then I would definitely focus on getting some support, right? People don't understand how important it is to prioritize systems and processes. And they think just coming up with an LLC or that piece of paper is what starts a business. But I learned that the focus on the vision, don't overlook the process. Don't overlook the importance of having systems in place to help you run things smoothly. And with automation and clear workflows and organization, that's going to help you for scaling, but it's also going to help you with your sanity. So just taking that time to invest in yourself is really important. But yeah, I would say I wish I had started sooner. So if you're out there sitting on your dreams, there's never a perfect time. And I know money and all these things, but honestly, you can make more money. You're just not going to get more time, but you got to believe in yourself first. Start with you are, with what you have, and trust, and know that if you put the effort forth and you truly do it, that it will hopefully work out for you.
Okay, Dr. Baker, can you please tell everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. So if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, Dr. Renée Baker, you can always see me in the picture with the hot pink. My company, you can follow me on the company, the RBI group there. I have a podcast, and that podcast is in the Unleashed Life with Dr. Renée Baker. And we talk about all of these different things. And my personal website is reneebaker.com. And my business website is the RBI group.com. But yeah, it's Renée Baker. It's Renée Baker at all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Baker. I won't even keep the audience. Thank you so much for joining us. And listeners, we're going to bring her back again in several months, but we're going to have her back. Thank you again, Dr. Baker, for being our guest. This has truly been a blessing, more than you will ever know. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you both. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.